Hello and welcome to Overtime Hockey Talk. My name is Mark Paul, Justin Baker, as always, the better half of the show, joining me and always from a different location. You just can't you stay in the same place.
No, I like the variety is the spice of life, right?
I suppose I could be anywhere. You wouldn't know. There's just blue behind me, so
It's very true. I'm in the nursery.
beach, but I'm
Can't
not.
tell.
Yes, that's the green screen behind you. That nice blanket. It's beautiful. All right, on today's show, so if you did not listen to our episode from a couple days ago, we previewed the first 4 series that we knew about, at least that we were pretty sure we knew about. We preemptively did the Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens before anything had officially been decided. Montreal still needed the extra point, which of course they got against the Carolina Hurricanes. And so on that episode, you can hear us preview the Dallas Stars and the Colorado Avalanche, the Kings and the Oilers, the Caps, Canadiens, and the Hurricanes and Devils. So go back, listen to that episode if you have not heard the previews of those. We're going to do the remaining 4 series, and some of them start tomorrow, which is Saturday. We're recording this Friday morning. We're going to put this right out as soon as we're done. So yeah, playoffs are upon us. It's here. The best time of year. This is truly Christmas. I don't need Christmas. Or maybe it's that Christmas is nice, but this is the real deal. This is what I want. Give me NHL playoffs.
Yeah, I'm a little bummed though that some of the games don't start till Tuesday. I like Christmas. I don't like waiting. So let's go.
True. And I don't know if you saw, but I believe it is game 2 of the Vegas Golden Knights and the
Mm,
Minnesota Wild. I have never, ever seen this before. And maybe I've just missed it in the past. But I've been watching hockey since like 1994 is one of the first games I really deeply remember. I think it would have been 94, maybe 93, somewhere in there. I've never seen a game start at 11 p.m. Eastern time. Have you?
love it. Love it. No, I haven't actually. Those West Coast, we see 10, 10:30, but for 11 o'clock, man, I'm
11
pumped.
o'clock. 11 o'clock, which means in like an 11:15 actual puck drop, because it's Vegas, they're going to do something cute in the beginning
Well, of
to
course.
rile everybody up. That's going to be a late one. That one has potential. If it goes into overtime and starts going late, like that one has some potential to maybe break some records.
Dude,
Or
can you imagine being up at 5 a.m. in the morning watching hockey still?
Dude,
Double
no,
overtime or something?
no, I don't think I could. I think I'd have to go to bed. I'd have to call it good because yeah, that's a little late for me. But if the Leafs were playing the Golden Knights and they did that, granted they would never do that because it's the Leafs. But if they were, I would stay up for the game. But game 2 of a first round series that I'll watch it, but I don't have anything invested in, I should say. So I hope that game just ends in regulation for everybody's sake. But all right, so let's start off with the President's Trophy winners. The Winnipeg Jets, they sealed that President's Trophy, and the St. Louis Blues, they, of course, win their last game and are able to secure a playoff spot over the Calgary Flames, which, hey, the Calgary Flames, good on them. They did end up winning their last game. Granted, it was not in regulation, but they ended up winning their very last game. So an unbelievable season. Like, I feel like if there's ever been an honorable mention for the playoffs, this Calgary team has been that honorable mention, like so close to making it. I believe they went like 11-3-2 in their last 15, 16 games.
That's
And
impressive, man.
they were 2 points out when they were at that point, at the beginning of that streak. At the same exact time, St. Louis went like 12-2-1. And the Flames still missed the playoffs by 2 points. It's unreal that they could go on a streak like that and still miss the playoffs. That's probably a rarity. I would guess that in almost any other year, the Flames are in the playoffs. Or if
Yeah.
they're just in the Eastern Conference, they're definitely in the playoffs.
Oh, that was a low blow, but you got to tip your cap to them. Bottom line is, we all expected them to probably be towards the bottom of this conference. So losing all those pieces, so well done.
Yeah. All right, let's dive into the Jets and the Blues just for some context. The Jets 3-1 against the Blues. The Blues lost one of those games in OT, but the Jets took the series, and they, of course, were the better team throughout the whole year. St. Louis has really come on in the end. It's almost impossible to go back to some games in November and make a judgment based on that with the St. Louis Blues team. Like, we're really looking since of four nations, right? Is that all we care about evaluating at this point for that team?
Maybe. And you know what? I think that's all they care about too, right? So this is the league of what you've done for me lately. And lately, St. Louis has been hot, man.
Yeah, very hot. And the right players coming around at the right time. Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou, they
Mm,
struggled mightily last year. And we said the success of this team is going to rely on those two guys. And here they both, Robert Thomas ends up with over 80 points. Kyrou was 70. It's obviously a much, much better position. And obviously the big surprise was Dylan Holloway all year long, just a different player, 63 points, maybe the best RFA grab in history.
dude, Edmonton has got to be kicking themselves. Let's let him go and sign Jeff Skinner, and this will work out better for us.
And unfortunately, he is out for the start of the playoffs. He is right now considered week to week, according to head coach Jim Montgomery. He said he was on the ice before we went on the trip. He was doing some stick handling, but it wasn't anything rigorous, even close to being ready to be back on the ice with us. So it's week to week. So that is, it sure doesn't sound like a guy who's going to at least play in game one, probably not game two. Like, maybe expect him later in the series. It's an unfortunate injury for the St. Louis Blues, but they're going to have to push through. They have no other choice. And to lean on Jordan Binnington, of course, is going to be the key.
Yeah, that's going to be the key. And I will say too, we talked about all those names, Thomas, Kyrou, but one guy that kind of I know personally because he was on my fantasy team, Pavel Buchnevich, just was terrible to start the season. And second half of the year, Four Nations, man, he and Thomas just clicked. And so I think they're going to lean very heavily on those two guys. And obviously Jordan Kyrou, he's clicked with Dylan Holloway, so that's going to be a bummer. We'll see what happens with his production if that kind of tails off. But if St. Louis has got any chances of the series, they need Binnington, like you said, to step up, and they need secondary scoring from guys like Kyrou.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, when you consider what the Jets have down their lineup, that's been a lot of their success is the depth throughout their lineup and their forward group. Cole Perfetti had 50 points. Is playing as a new lease on life there. Nino Niederreiter, the only top 5 pick on that team, I believe.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Only guy to be taken in the top 5. He was not drafted 5th overall by the Winnipeg Jets, obviously. But yeah, Nemestikov, Niederreiter, Lowry, and Iafallo, they all hit the 30-point mark, which is impressive. There's your bottom 6 is just full of guys who are producing, and Neil Pionk was the only other defenseman he got more than 20 points. He had 39 aside from Josh Morrissey. It's a group of defensemen who are not going to put up huge points other than Morrissey, maybe Pionk, who signed a big deal. 6 times 7?
Yeah, big money.
7 times 6. Which one was it? 7 times?
Oh, he got
I think
7.
It's 7 million for
yeah.
6 years. Yeah. Hold on. I got to pause for a second. All right. And when you look at compared to the Blues offense has definitely not been what the Jets is, right? Yeah, they're getting contribution. Yes, Buchnevich is playing much better as of the last 20 games or so, but just not quite the same depth that the Jets have. And to me, that's the biggest difference in this series. Not necessarily like the defense on both ends is pretty solid, but it's that forward group that I just can't see Winnipeg going down here against St. Louis.
For me, what it comes down to is not just the depth, but I want to talk about Connor Hellebuyck, his history in the playoffs. It hasn't been good.
Yeah.
That's
anyone who's picking the Jets or picking the Blues, it's because of that.
Exactly. We know Binnington, what he did at Four Nations. He knows how to raise his game, right, when it comes to these kind of moments. So, is this the time that we finally say Hellebuyck step up? Listen, he's on his way to his second Vezina. He's clearly the top goaltender in NHL, not according to the players. If you haven't seen the new polls lately, but still, man, he's still up there. And
I feel like, does anyone else feel like the players are a little behind the times? Like, really, we're still vast majority is still picking Vasilevsky.
I don't hate the pick of Vasilevsky. I just hate that there was such a big gap between him and a guy like Hellebuyck. Come on, man.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that they're like, look at all the cups he has, and
I
yet
get it.
the
He's
two
got the
guys below
hardware
him
too.
has none. Yep, it's true. It's true. Now, Binnington and Hellebuck obviously played each other in the Four Nations, so this is the second time that they'll play a major tournament against each other. And do you think is this finally the year where Hellebuck, his nerves are calm, he breaks through and has the kind of playoff that you expect out of Hellebuck?
Yeah, I think so. It's about time he gets rid of or exercises those demons because listen, if you're Winnipeg, you don't go out and get another goaltender this offseason if it doesn't work out. You're stuck with this guy. He's it. So he has to. There's no other better time to do it than now.
Yep. And I'm as good as St. Louis has been, I think there still are enough holes in their team that you can go. Winnipeg should win this series. They've been the better team all year. And yes, St. Louis has taken advantage of, I mean, they went on an absolute roll. And since Jim Montgomery was hired there, they've been fantastic. I think they've only lost, what is it, like in regulation and overtime? I want to say, I just saw it. I want to say that they were 19-4-3 since Four Nations. Oh, Jim Montgomery, 34-18-7. But obviously they've been very hot since Four Nations. And that's something, that swagger that Binnington has. And that's that intangible that you can't see, but I don't think that the Jets are going down here. I think they're going to move on, maybe not super easily. Like I could see the series going 6, even pushing 7, because St. Louis just refuses to go away. But I think the difference with this Jets team, they're like, every year we're going to get 5-10% better. And I think they looked at last year and the way that they lost to the Avalanche, and they said, we have to be just a little bit better, and we could have beaten the Avalanche. Like, I think they truly adjusted and have adjusted their game to be ready for the playoffs. Not
Yep.
taking a night off is a good way to find your way in the playoffs. You cannot take a night off.
Yeah. For me, the big concern is the depth scoring up front, right? Obviously, goaltending aside, are we going to get the same that elevated Kyrou on that second line without Holloway there? And when he ever comes back, right? Maybe it's game 4 when they're down 3-0. At that point, is it a little too late? So we'll see what happens with that. And with his injuries, prediction wise, I'm just going to say Winnipeg in 5 right now. I think Hellebuck turns it on and he steals the series for them.
Okay. Yeah. We do know, by the way, that Ehlers is out
Mhm.
probably for the entire first round. That's what I'm hearing. But Gabe Vilardi he is skating. And so that's good news for the Jets. If they can get just Vilardi back, it's huge for their depth as well.
Yeah, for sure. And
Uh,
I will say to your comment on depth there, a guy like Alex Iafallo, who's just been seamlessly shuffling up to that first line of Velarde's absence, just they don't miss a beat. So that's again, it's back to the point about that depth at the forward group, how seamless they just transition when guys get out. They can just plug the next guy in and it's like nothing misses a beat. And another guy we haven't even mentioned at all, Kyle Connor, just quietly top 10 in scoring in the NHL, 40 plus goals. And this guy is just a phenomenal player and just never I don't think gets the recognition he definitely deserves.
yeah. That's unfortunately just kind of what happens playing in Winnipeg. You're just not quite as visible. But to your point with Alex Iafallo moving up to the first line and not skipping a beat, I think that speaks as much to Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. Like, put whomever you'd like next to us, and they will succeed because we know how to play with anybody.
Yep.
And I think that's the reason why the Jets are so good. Like, when Scheifele and Hellebuck decided we're going to stay and we're going to remain Jets for the next 8 years, I think it totally changed the landscape of the Winnipeg Jets. Because remember, there was such a debate. Are these guys going to stay? That's doubtful. Nobody stays in Winnipeg. And then they both came out same time, signed. I think it's the reason that Neil Pionk signed a pretty team-friendly deal. And I for sure on the open market, he could have gotten that extra 7th year. And he stays in Winnipeg. And he obviously sees something special happening here. Same with Dylan DeMello, who signed last off season. So I think maybe Winnipeg has turned that corner of players always bolting. Okay, I'm a UFA now. I'm out, and they've seen some big names remain. So hopefully it's a sign of things to come for the Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah, we'll see. And listen, it doesn't hurt that they're always at the top of the Western Conference every year, so that kind of helps, right?
Yep.
If you're sitting there, gosh, St. Louis or even Minnesota towards the bottom or Calgary, right? Do you want to resign and just say,
Sure.
are we good enough?
Yep. And yeah, Winnipeg just always seems to, at very least, find their way into the playoffs. And you have to think with Hellebuck, I know he's had some bad games, but he's going to find his way. He absolutely will find his way. Okay. Oh, sorry. How many games did you say that series would go?
Winnipeg in 5.
Okay. I thought that's what you said. Yeah, I think St. Louis is dangerous enough to push it to 6. So I'm going to go Jets in 6. I've only seen a handful of predictions call for the Blues. Every single one of them just says, Hellebuck's been bad in the playoffs, so he's going to be bad again. It's,
That's your only reason.
I remember way back in the day when everyone said the same thing about Sergei Fedorov. They're like, oh, they all called him Sergei Samarov.
Forgot about that.
They hated, they thought, oh, this guy can't get it done in the playoffs. And then, of course, he goes and has some fantastic playoffs. And it's you're in such a little vacuum that you can have 6 bad games. Like, you can get shut down. Guys are intentionally going after you. They shut you down, and other guys succeed, and they look good, and you look bad. But also, that was a time where you truly could shut someone down. You're like, all right, that guy's going to be your shadow, and he's just going to stick lock you. He's going to do the can opener on you any chance he gets. Yep, a couple of those, couple of jersey pulls. Yeah, different time. A different time. All right, let's go to the Vegas Golden Knights and the Minnesota Wild. Let's get your first impression of this series, because aside from the 11 p.m. start that we're all super excited about, we're all going to be up late watching this series, that's for sure. What's your initial thought? Does Minnesota stand a chance against the Golden Knights?
I'm not optimistic for them at all. It's nice that they get Kirill the Thrill, right? He's back playing a little bit, but really, if you take him away, what else do they got? We saw when he was injured how they just slowly started sliding down the standings.
Yep.
And so, again, like they locked up Sergei Fedorov for the Red Wings, if you lock this guy up, and I mean, he's one of those special players that I think you can only do so much. But once you shut him down, or even take away 90% of his game, his ability to score, what do they have? I don't see a lot there that really I can look to, maybe outside of Matt Boldy, and might put up a good fight in net, but I don't have a lot of confidence beyond Kirill the Thrill here.
Yeah. By the way, Minnesota 0-3 against the Golden Knights this year. So that does not exactly instill confidence. Regular season is what it is. And you're going to have Kirill Kaprizov back for sure here in this one. But the Golden Knights are on a different level. Like, we're talking Jack Eichel, I would say, had probably his best year of his career. Like, he's not someone who's going to ever probably get 100 points. Right? That's just not the game that he plays, but he plays he plays truly like a perfect game. He rarely makes a mistake. I guess he put up 94 points, so he's pretty darn close to 100. That's like a Mitch Marner kind of season, which his previous career best was 82 points, and he missed his career high in goals is 36. He had 28 this year, but he's basically turned into a pure setup man. So you look at the way that he's played all year long, I just don't see the Minnesota Wild being able to stop him. And that's probably going to be the difference, is that as close to Barkov is for the Florida Panthers, like, such an important player for the Vegas Golden Knights, and he's having his best year. So I don't think there's just no stopping him right now. And I don't think that Minnesota, as great as they have some nice defensive forwards and defensive centermen that can attempt to shut somebody down, I just don't see it happening with Eichel right now. They've just been too good. Matt Boldy, he had a really nice year. I'm looking at him going, you're a young kid. You're coming into the playoffs here for what is the second time that he's been in the playoffs, Matt Boldy. Yep. And I don't see that same level. Like, he's just not quite there yet where I look at him and go, oh, he's going to carry a team through the playoffs. He's a good regular season player, but I think come playoff time, it's just going to be a different ball game, and I don't see him putting up the same kind of numbers that he
Well,
put
look,
up.
you put top line against top line. So you've got Eichel against Marco Rossi's line. Matt Boldy, right, plays on that left side. Guess who plays on the right side with Jack Eichel? Only the best defensive winger in the NHL, Mark Stone. So you got to go up against that all series long. I don't have a lot of confidence in Boldy to get it done.
And you know what? Lee Smith, since coming back to the Vegas Golden Knights, has been sneaky good. He has been he came back and it was like he never left. And a great addition. He's slotting up sometimes into their top 6, playing with William Karlsson and Victor Olofsson. This team is really prepped for a long run. Defensively, they might be have the best defensive group in the Western Conference. I'm looking across the Western Conference going, who has a better defensive group? Outside, yes, Colorado has Cale Makar. Don't get me wrong, he's the best defenseman in the league. But as far as top to bottom, Braden McNabb, Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, Nick Hague, their top 4 is as solid as any other top 4 in the league.
They have the best top 6 in the West. And not only that, but these guys have played together for 5+ years. They have the chemistry. Yeah. They've won the cup together. So
that's a great point. That this team is, a lot of them have been together for a long time. Mm-hmm. And that is a big boost. They know how each other plays, and they also know how each other plays under pressure. You think about when there's pressure, if you've got friends or coworkers, there's some people that you might really like, and then they're under pressure and you go, oh man, that guy can't handle any pressure. They change. All right, we've talked forwards, talked defensemen. Talk to me about goaltending.
Oh boy.
Maybe the one area that Minnesota has an advantage.
Maybe, but we know Adin Hill. He knows the grind. He knows what it takes to win a cup. He's done it.
It's true.
He's had an up and down seasons. It's a roll of the dice, whatever you're going to get out of him. But I think because of how well this team plays in front of him defensively, because they know what a grind the playoffs are and how they need to adjust their game, I'm not worried at all. I don't think he's going to steal them any games or steal them the series, but I don't think he's going to cost them anything at all. Now, on the flip side, Gustafsson could potentially steal a game, maybe 2.
Yeah. He could be, if he gets hot enough, he'd be the reason that they beat them. If they're going to win, it's got to be a Gustafsson show.
Yeah, but
and better not see any Marc-Andre Fleury. None.
You know what? Maybe Marc-Andre Fleury might be the missing link in winning this series because he's gone after this year, right? So maybe he comes in for one last hurrah. I think what's the old saying,
Golden Knight,
right? What do they say? Like a tiger is most deadly when they're on their last, when they're cornered. But gosh, for me, I don't know if Gustafsson is going to be enough to carry this team in this series. He's going to need a lot of help in front of him, and they've got some good pieces, but I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah, he carried them through Kaprizov's injuries. He was very good. In April, he has not been as solid. That would be a little concerning. I think he's 2-2-1 in his last 5 games and like an .881 save percentage. So definitely limping into the playoffs a little bit. And that isn't exactly how you want to do it. But I think it's fair to say he can hit that reset button and see what happens here. But yeah, I got to tip my cap to Minnesota, though, because this whole time they were supposed to be rebuilding, and yet they never missed the playoffs. It seems like they're always here, even though their team had all these cap issues. They found a way, and they drafted really well. And hey, here they are. I know that they likely won't win in this first round, but I guess you'd rather see your team give a dogfight in the first round than be so far out of it. They managed to draft and be able to sign guys like Kaprizov without having to have high draft picks. So for them, it's worked out. And I will say, if there's anything about this series, it's let's let Kirill Kaprizov steal the show here. And that's going to be it. That's their only hope.
That's going to be it.
Kaprizov steals the show, and Gustafsson is Yaroslav Halak, 2009. Got to go back there again. So, all right, give me your prediction. What do you think?
Only sweep in the entire first round. For me, it's Vegas in 4.
Calling a sweep. Ouch.
Yeah, I got to throw one of those in there somewhere, and this is the most obvious candidate for me.
They're going to be tired. Yeah, those wild. They're going to be like, oh, it's too late. It's 11 o'clock. I guess for them, are they on Central Time? I think they are. They are. So
They're an
I
hour
guess
behind, but
maybe 10.
still.
But yeah, I got to think that Minnesota can pull a win out, at least one. I think 5 games for Vegas makes sense. Minnesota can win 1 game in Minnesota and make this series somewhat interesting.
Okay.
And I got to think Gustafsson is going to steal a game.
Sure.
Vegas in 5. And we continue to share the same team that's going to win the series. Although, wait, was there one that we – no, you said – did you say Montreal was – Montreal would beat Washington. All right. Still feel that way?
Still good with that one. Yep. Let's go.
All right. Okay, let's head over to the Eastern Conference. The Tampa Bay Lightning once again playing the Florida Panthers in either the first or second round just seems to be what's going to happen for the next 10 years. They're always going to be playing each other. Yeah, Battle of Florida starts on Tuesday. This is one of the series you're talking about that just doesn't start forever. I think their last games were on Wednesday, so they get like almost a whole entire week off. Pretty crazy on that front, but tell me how you're feeling about this series this year. I think maybe this year the pendulum has swung a little bit back to the Lightning's favor.
Yeah, we've got a little bit different Vasilevsky coming into the series, right? Last couple seasons, you got to say that maybe those runs to the Cup Finals 3 years in a row wore this team down a little bit. So
yeah.
They look a little bit more well rested, right? No Stamkos. We've got Gensel in this year. He's looked great on that top line. And not only that, but I love the additions. And again, this was I guess one of the key ingredients to their success during those Stanley Cup runs was the depth now that they put on that third line with guys like Nick Paul, Bjorkstrad, and Yanni Gordogan. So I think they got something. And let's not forget to mention Ryan McDonough just looks reinvigorated, leading the league in plus minus. He's the best shutdown guy right now in the entire NHL, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. And when you look at what they did to each other in the regular season, 2-2, both teams won a game in regulation. And the fact that this is the 4th time they've played each other in 5 years. And every single time the winner goes on to the Stanley Cup Finals.
It's crazy.
Are one of these teams going to the finals?
It's easy to make an argument for that because me personally, I think the Eastern Conference winner is going to come out of this division. It's going to be one of these two or Toronto, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would think so. I can't see Ottawa making that kind of run. Definitely don't see Montreal. Even if they beat Washington, I don't think that Montreal is going to head to the Stanley Cup Finals again, like a repeat of 2021 when they shocked everybody. They just don't have the veteran presence or Carey Price.
Or Shea Weber.
Sam Montembeault, definitely not Carey Price. Yeah. Now, do you think that Florida's guys are actually going to come back from injuries?
They'll come back, whether or not
think Matthew Tkachuk is going to be playing game 1?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any way he sits it out, but maybe not game 1. He might miss game 1, but he'll be back in the series pretty darn quick. I don't think there's any way, just the competitive guy he is, that there's any way he sits out more than a game or two, especially if, say, for example, Florida comes out and win game 1. Maybe there's a shot that he sits out game 2, but no, I don't think the competitor in him wants to sit back and let somebody else decide this series for them.
Yeah, I would agree. It just doesn't seem like him. It took what? His body just being completely broken down for him to miss one of those Stanley Cup final games, even though he was in quite a bad spot physically. Yeah, I just think that we're watching Florida now in a position where they are the team that's exhausted. They truly look like they're still fantastic. They're a great team, but they look worn down. And maybe all this rest, maybe the Aaron Ekblad suspension could be a blessing in disguise. And he's been out 20 games. And then Matthew Tkachuk out since 4 Nations. Maybe it is the rest that they need. And they can come in and do this. But Tampa Bay just seems to have the depth, like you talked about. And Jake Gensel, I think he's one of the more underrated playoff performers of the last 10 years. Like, he's been in some huge games. And with Pittsburgh, he was towards the end there. They're missing the playoffs, and we didn't get to see him play in the playoffs as often. But, man, he was a huge impact player when Pittsburgh was going on those runs. 21 points in 25 games and 2017, 21 points in 12 games in 2018. And I think it'll be fun to see if he can get back to that level. Last year, 9 points in 11 games for the Hurricanes, which that's pretty good for being on the Hurricanes. Nobody's putting up 16 points in 11 games for the Hurricanes. So I just think that offense for the Lightning has been reinvigorated. And clearly Stamkos was ready to take a step back. Like they moved on from him at the perfect time, unfortunately, for Stamkos. But yeah, Getzel's been a breath of fresh air. I think he's been a huge boost for Braden Point, and that's going to be the toughest matchup, I think, for Florida. It's going to be stopping those two.
And even if you can shut those guys down, right, you still got Brandon Hagel, who just, for whatever reason, just decided, you know what, I was phenomenal last couple years, but let's just take it to another level, unexpectedly.
And is Kucherov the best player in the NHL right now?
He's the best assist man. There's no doubt about that.
I think now he's led the league in points 3 times. I think he's entered into a conversation where we go, it's Crosby, it's Ovechkin, and it's Kucherov. Like, there's your 3 best from he's pre-McDavid as far as when he was drafted. So I think we're looking at him in that kind of light. Like, we can throw him in with Draisaitl. We can throw him in with McDavid. And there's your top 5 players from this era. He's just been that good to lead the league in points 3 years. That's next level. And not come out of nowhere, obviously. Like, we know he's been great, but putting up huge points has come out of nowhere for him. So
yeah,
I
will say, don't put this guy on the power play. That's all I'm saying if you're Florida.
No, definitely not.
The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40 points, or more? It's your call. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. New customers only. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after insurance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/audio.
All right. Do you think the one area that Florida has the advantage over Tampa is on defense? Despite Hedman, despite how good Chernak and McDonough have been, do the Panthers have the edge? Is that the area where they can beat the Lightning?
No.
Forsling, Jones, Gulick, Blad. No, you're not don't feel it?
I like Seth Jones. I haven't really seen much of him in the playoffs lately. He's obviously been in a market like Chicago for a while, and in Columbus, we didn't see much there. For me, I know what Hedman brings. I know what McDonough brings. I have a lot of confidence in these guys, and coming back, him and Forsling are going to be fine, but it's the rest of those guys that I just don't have a lot of confidence in. And I think when you look at Tampa's depth as well on defense, it's a wash. So for me, I don't think there's really an edge there at all.
Okay. I think that he's definitely been better since getting to Florida. Like, he looks like he cares again, which is a positive thing for Seth Jones. And I got to think that he makes a difference for the Panthers. And again, I guess I look at them and I go, this just looks like a tired team. So until they prove that they're not, like, they could walk into game 1 and pour it on, and I could come back here and say I was wrong. But I think that Tampa Bay is recharged. They're refreshed. They're ready to win again. And the Panthers, it's just hard to do this again, like 3 years in a row to go to the finals. It is an absolute grind. We saw Tampa Bay do it once, and they ran out of gas, I think, by the time they got to the finals. I just don't know if this Panthers team, because of the way that their top-end talent plays, because of the way that Kachuk in particular plays, I'm just not sure that he can stay healthy all playoffs. Like, I think he's coming back a little soon. He's just trying to come back for the playoffs. He's going to come back too soon, and I think it's just going to result in them losing here in the first round.
Okay. Wow. I will say, I do think a guy like Brad Marchand, for example, I think his leadership, right? He's been there. He knows the grind. I think he's definitely going to help. I don't want to say elevate's not the right word, but he's definitely going to carry some of that weight, right? I think with a lot of these guys being tired, right? We've talked about that at nauseum, but for me, I just think it's too little too late.
Yeah. Certainly he'll be a factor. He's going to piss some people off, and that's a good thing for the Panthers. But I think he's too slow to make the kind of difference in like at the top end of the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, I think that Brad Marchand is probably a second, third line winger, and those are the types. And then you put him on the power play, and he can do that. But I don't think that he can keep up the same way that he did even maybe 2 years ago. He's just now really on the wrong side of 30, 35, and this is normal. It's like the normal progression for a guy. He still has great hands. He can still make people angry and has that leadership in the dressing room, but he's just not going to be your first line guy, and he shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be. That's the right word.
All right. What's your prediction here for this series?
Yeah, I think we've already honed in on who we think. I think both of us think who's going to win here, but for me, Tampa wins. But I think it's going to take a full 7 games in this series. I think Florida still has obviously enough in the tank to really push this one. I think we didn't talk about Bobrovsky. He can still steal a game or two if needed. And I think that's going to be enough for Florida to take it. But in the end, ultimately, I think just Tampa's too good. They've got too much depth, and they're too well rested, I think, to lose this one.
Yeah, this series wouldn't be a series if it doesn't go 7 games. Like, it's going 7 games. It's going at least 6, but yeah, I'm in the same boat. I'm saying 7 games. I'm
Okay.
going Tampa Bay. And I think it just comes down to Tampa Bay's got that home ice advantage. And I think that could be enough for that final game. Yeah, and Tampa Bay they just look refreshed. That's the biggest thing you can say about them. They look like they're ready to go again on a run.
Yep.
Which is terrifying, I'm sure, for the rest of the conference. And since the trade deadline, I think especially they've just been phenomenal since the trade deadline. All right, let's go to the final series. And that is, I had the jersey on.
Glad you wore it.
Leafs.
Yeah.
I actually, a few episodes ago, I wore a Senators jersey, and it's still down in the basement sitting over there. I was going to bring it on here and light it on fire, but I don't want to burn my jerseys.
Yeah, please don't.
It's the first time they played each other in the playoffs since 2004. I vividly remember the series between the Leafs and the Ottawa Senators, and they played each other 4 times in 5 years, and the Leafs won every single series. So reminiscent of the Oilers and the Kings playing each other. We talked about Oilers Kings 4 years in a row. Has it ever happened where the same team won all 4 years? It wasn't 4 years in a row. I think they missed, 2003. I don't think they played each other, but they played each other 4 out of 5 years, and the Leafs won every time. So that might be the closest that it's ever gotten to 4 years in a row with the same team winning in either the first or the second round. But obviously, we're 21 years later. Those series have nothing to do with what's going on here. And this might be the only series where the underdog won every game, or like even won the season series, because Ottawa was 3-0 against the Leafs in the regular season, and they outscored them by a 7-3 margin. And
Wow.
Sens basically dominated 5-on-5. So before I give my thoughts, let's get your thoughts on less biased thoughts on the Leafs and the Senators.
Yeah, I'm going to say, just first and foremost, if the Sens want to win this series, they have to continue that dominance 5-on-5, because I'm sure, as good as anybody, how deadly Toronto can be on the power play, right? So those top guys, 5 guys, are going to sit there and play a minute 45 of each 2-minute power play. And they'll click, right? They'll have some success. There's no stopping it, in my opinion. It's inevitable that they're going to hit that 25-30% mark in the series. Ottawa's got to win 5-on-5. And I think, and he might be, in my opinion, the best goalie in this series coming into the series, but Linus Ullmark, to me, has got to be the reason that they win this series. I think he's had a lot of success in Boston, and I don't know how much confidence I really have in Wool and company to, I guess, win this series. I think they have to be good enough, right? They don't necessarily have to elevate their game and steal a game or two, but they've got to be good enough. And Wall, we've seen in the playoffs before, and he looked good, but really, if he can replicate that kind of success, I think that's going to go a long way. But Ullmark, to me, he has to be the difference maker for Ottawa, in my opinion, because I don't have a lot of confidence when you look down the middle of this lineup. Usually when you talk about forward groups, first you look at centermen and you say, okay, cool. Tim Stützle, Josh Norris, are these guys going to be Shane Pinto? Are these guys going to be good enough to go up against Scott Laughton, Matthews, Tavares? Are they going to be able to match shot for shot, goal for goal? I don't know. Again, they're going to have to play a complete team game and get some excellent goaltending from Linus Ullmark to have a shot.
Yes, it is going to be. There is certainly scenarios where Ottawa could win this series. You're right. Like Ullmark, he could get hot. I will say the one time that the Leafs played Ullmark last year in the playoffs, they handled him pretty well. A lot of people were angry that the Bruins went to Ullmark over Swayman, and I almost cost them the series because they did it. So I gotta think there's a little bit of that in his head. Like, all right, last year in the playoffs, the Leafs got me, and the Leafs are feeling confident because they know what they did to me last year in the playoffs. And I also wonder, same as Matthew Tkachuk, like, what is Brady Tkachuk coming in at? Are we talking? Has he been 100% for the last week and they just held him out just because, or is he going to come in at 80%, 85%, and he's just going to play because here we are, here's the playoffs, like doing everything he can to get as healthy as possible, which
I think so
is going to have an impact on his game. Is he going to be able to do all the things, that usual blend of skill and violence that he brings to the table? There's been a lot of action on our X account where I've seen a lot of people talk, oh, Brady Tkachuk, the Leafs don't have an answer for Brady Tkachuk. And so many people are like, do the Senators have Austin Matthews or a William Nylander? Like all these guys with 40 goals. Yes, Brady Tkachuk's a really good player. He's a 70-point player, and he's never made the playoffs before. We have no idea what we're gonna get come playoff time. Not that I think that he's going to vanish by any means. Of course, we know he's going to throw his weight around, but I think the Leafs they've changed the way that they've played enough under Craig Berube to go, you know what? Austin Matthews is going to throw some hits. I like guys are really bought in to a much more patient, not necessarily. It's not like all of a sudden the Leafs are this like staunch defensive team. They still had Marner had 102 points, Nylander with 84, Matthews with a brutal 78, like 78 points. He still had a point per game, and it's considered like a really down year for Matthews. It shows you how good he is. Tavares had a resurgence year, and then of course Matthew Knies with 58 points. But I think you really saw Knies come on in the second half of the year where he found his stride, he found his spot, and he's poised, I think, in the next 2-3 years. Like we're going to be looking at Matthew Knies, not necessarily as that Brady Tkachuk, Tom Wilson. Is he going to go in and fight too many guys? Is he going to be that bruiser? No, but he's that power forward who knows how to use his body. He's going to get in front of the net. He's going to frustrate you in the corners. And he's maybe the one dimension that the Leafs have never had, that true power forward. And I think there's your answer to Brady Tkachuk is Matthew Knies. It's not that he's going to go out and create so much turmoil from a physical standpoint, but he's going to go and he's going to be able to withstand some of that physical presence that's coming his way because he's big, he's bulky, he's able to stand in front of the net, create problems for Ullmark, which we know if you can get in front of Ullmark, that's really the way to beat him. So I look at that and I go, yes, maybe the Leafs don't have a perfect answer for Brady Tkachuk, but I don't think that the Senators in a 7-game series have the answers for all the offensive firepower that the Leafs have. And their defense has been really good. Jake Sanderson is Geez, he's one of the fastest defensemen. I think it was he's the only defenseman with more speed bursts of 22 miles per hour or more than Jake Sanderson is Cale Makar. So Jake Sanderson can fly, and that is going to be important for Ottawa to get the puck out of their zone, which is a big reason why they're so good 5-on-5, because of Jake Sanderson. And
Yeah.
Zub has been really good alongside him as a shutdown defenseman. But I think that the Leafs are in this spot where the patience that they have learned through the year is going to pay off here against Ottawa. Like, they aren't getting frustrated the way that they would in the past. And you see them with a 1-goal lead late in the game. It doesn't feel like they're going to blow it. It always used to feel like, oh, great, we're up 2-0 with 10 minutes left. Here we go. We got to feel real comfortable. And now I think they're comfortable playing with the 1-goal lead. I think Craig Berube has brought a different kind of confidence. And I think that's going to be important in this series. And it's no knock on Ottawa, but I think just where they are at in their development, they made the playoffs finally. They finally made the playoffs. They're going to give the Leafs some trouble. But I think the Leafs are just on a different level. And the winning this series is going to be small potatoes. Like, they're going to go in there. They're going to be surgical. They're going to win this series. And they know what they have to do. Like, this group is a get to the Stanley Cup or bust here. And
Yeah, that's where you're at. And for me, the X factor in this whole series is Craig Berube. When you talk about being surgical, if you get into a shoving match with Brady Tkachuk and Matthew Nyes in it, you have to quickly adjust, right? Your game, you have to play a little bit different style. Berube knows how to elevate in the playoffs. He knows how to win, and he can make those small adjustments. And let's face it, I think we've seen Toronto in the playoffs enough and experience a lot of different situations and different teams, different styles as far as their competition is concerned, that they know. I think they got the personnel to adjust pretty quickly. Whereas I think, again, Ottawa, we talked about it. It's been a while since they've been in the playoffs. They're very young. Pinto, Stutzel, what are these guys going to be able to do when they have to adjust their game a little bit? And to me, I think that's going to be the X factor in this series.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree. I think this series it's going to be a good one. I think it's going to be a series where Leafs fans are on their heels because Ottawa's dominating 5-on-5 at times. Like, they are going to dominate 5-on-5. They just are really good 5-on-5, and the Leafs can give up a lot of shots. But I think that dominance from 5-on-5 is going to it's not necessarily going to pass the smell test, because Ottawa's going to get a bunch of shots, but they're going to hold them to the perimeter, and that's where they're going to shine. They're going to block a ton of shots. We know that. Leafs are every Craig Berube team leads the league in block shots because this is a style. And you know what? That's in the regular season. That it's not quite as important. Come playoff time, the block shots go way up. Everyone's willing to step in front of a freaking cannon anytime you want them to. And I think that's where the Leafs have been prepping all year long to not allow you to get to the inside into those high danger scoring chance areas. And I think that's really going to be the difference. One aspect that has to be talked about, Morgan Rielly had a rough regular season last year. And then in the playoffs, he was fantastic. Same goes for this year. Pretty rough regular season. Can he hit the reset button again and find his way in the playoffs?
I think the one thing you got to look at this year versus last year, should he have a little rough start, or maybe just isn't producing the way, not necessarily offensively, but producing on both ends of the ice, maybe we hope he should be doing. They've got a secret weapon, in my opinion, in Chris Tanev, that Berube, I think, can utilize very heavily, can whip out there for 25
big goal
minutes.
Against Detroit.
Yeah.
That goal. He might as well have had a shovel when he was shooting that puck, because it
might as well have had a shovel.
It was bad.
Yeah, so you could potentially see a guy like Chris Tanev get a bulk of the ice time here and allow a guy like maybe Morgan Rielly to be more of a specialist, or that surgical tool that you put out there in certain situations where I think, again, where it's not maybe necessarily those minutes where you're blocking 100 shots at the end of the game because you're up 2 goals. That could be the difference for Craig Berube on the back end as far as utilization is concerned.
Yeah. One interesting, I just wanted to make this note that last game of the regular season against Detroit, Toronto rested nobody. I thought that was very strange. But they also, I think they have all those weird cap rules. I feel like last game of the regular season, like somewhere in there, if you want to rest some guys, you should be able to call up a couple people. But I guess is what it is. But they still managed to win that garbage game.
They had an interview with Scotty Bowman yesterday on NHL Network on XM, and they asked him about resting guys. You see a lot of teams doing that now, and you didn't really do that much back in your day. And he gave a perfect example. And I think with as many star players as Toronto has, maybe Craig Berube takes a similar approach, where Scotty Bowman said he went to Nicholas Lindstrom when they were clearly going to finish first in the division and was like, hey, I want to rest you. And Nicholas Lindstrom was like, no, you're not resting me. I don't want to play maybe 27 minutes a night. You could play me 20, but.
And that was what he did last night. Was I think Matthews played like 15 minutes. You had like Pontus Holmberg, I think, got almost 20 minutes of ice time. So obviously, he was putting the different guys out more often. But
right. So I wonder if Craig Berube went to those guys and say, hey, who wants to rest? And maybe nobody wanted to.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Let's hear your prediction for this series.
Yeah, I can't pick the Sens here. I got to go Toronto, but I'm going to do 6. I think Brady Tkachuk and Linus Ullmark are going to pull a game or two. They're going to make a little difference on the ice. But ultimately, I think when you talk about Craig Berube and the adjustments needed for this series, there's just too much talent up front. And I think Berube can adjust as needed to win the series for Toronto.
Okay. I'm going to go Leafs in 5.
5. All right.
But 6 certainly could add 6, 7. I'd love to say Leafs in 4, but I don't think that's too much. But yeah, I'll go Leafs in 5. I think it's going to be a pretty surgical dismantling of the Senators here. I think they're going to come out pushing 5-on-5. But I think we're going to see, we didn't even talk about Stolars, who only had the best save percentage in the NHL. So untested mostly in the playoffs, hasn't played a whole lot, but I think the team in front of him just plays like he's the perfect goaltender for the team in front of him to just, hey, we're going to let a lot of shots come through, but they're going to be from the outside. And he's very good positionally. He's going to be in the right place. He doesn't let up a whole lot of big rebounds, and he's not letting in very rarely does he let in a stinker. He might not make that like crazy athletic save, but he makes the saves he should basically all the time. And I think you're perfectly fine with that. If he has a .925 or better save percentage in the playoffs, there's not a chance that Ottawa beats the Leafs.
No.
Not a chance. All right. There is our 2025 NHL playoff preview. Again, if you missed the first episode, go back, subscribe to the show. You can listen to that. And Justin, any final thoughts on the playoffs before we get out of here?
I'm looking, it's Christmas, man. I'm just looking forward to unwrapping some presents. So let's go.
I love it. You can find us on X at OT Hockey Talk. We've been super active on there now. Go and find. Oh yeah, it's right down there at OT Hockey Talk. Go find us on there. Throw us your playoff predictions, and we will talk to you guys on early next week. We'll talk about everything that's going on in games 1 and 2. Who knows? Although one of the series, I don't even think it will have started on Monday. So we'll talk about all the games that have already happened. So we'll talk to you guys soon.